Hello everyone and welcome. I wanted to do this video today because based on a number of conversations I've had with business leaders about the past few months, and also because last week I actually saw that slide in my LinkedIn feed around the digital maturity framework, which talks about that journey that businesses are supposed to take to become digitally mature. And it's a very complex one. It ends up with multi-moment delivered through real-time predictive analytics. It's very daunting. It's like it makes it look like it's so incredibly hard or so incredibly complex that most business leaders I talk to are turned off by it. It's very daunting and it shouldn't be really. So that's why today we are going to talk about digital transformation, what's happening, what we should pay attention to, and why it can be a simple mental framework to think about it as opposed to looking at daunting slides that turn you off and make you think that it's so complex you don't really know where to start from. Having been in the tech sector for over 20 years, an industry that has been disrupted very early on by digital technology, I've been exposed to digital transformation a lot. I have actually drove a lot of it myself. In the IT industry, already in the late 90s, there was a huge disruption brought by Dell Computers, who started saying to consumers, I'm going to cut the middleman. You don't have to go to stores to buy PCs. You can buy directly from me on my website. You can configure your PC. So I'm going to make it cheaper and have a larger portfolio of products than anybody else do that. And that was the first direct-to-consumer at scale, and that changed the IT industry, and a lot of companies had to react to that. And since then, I've been driving a lot of transformations, and some landed well, some didn't. But one thing was common to all of them. It was really hard. It was really hard for three reasons. Number one, you're trying to cope with technology that evolves a lot over time. And so you're trying to catch up with something that's always moving. So the complexity and the lack of maturity of the tech was making it hard. The other point is there was no playbook. So you don't know where it starts, where it ends. Everyone does it slightly differently. So there are very little good examples out there of how it works and how you should think about it. And the third part was the resistance to change that it triggered in all the organizations. I try to drive transformation with my team. Digital transformation is very daunting. It's very technical. It scares people. It's showing them that it will change the way they work, the value they have in the company, how they add value, and it will change their lives eventually. And nobody likes to see their life change with something that they don't understand. So it triggers a ton of resistance. So every time, it was like racing in the mud. That's how it felt driving that transformation. Now, it doesn't have to be like that. It really doesn't. It's about having the right framework of understanding and the right framework of communication to make it happen. So let's talk about this. Let's bust the myth of digital transformation. So first, let's talk about the digital FOMO, the fear of missing out. That feeling everyone has when they see all this complex language and these people talking about digital that gives them a feeling of being lost, a feeling of being at risk of not knowing what to do in the future. Let's get rid of this. So number one, let's try to understand what is digital transformation. Well, the short and real answer is I don't really know. I guess it's everything that is being impacted in the world of business by the code digital technology. That's the easy part. Now, what I know is that there are three distinct areas that are mature enough and impacting businesses enough so that you should think about it as a business and consider having to do something about it. And the first one, you've actually already probably done something about it. It started in the late 80s. It's pre-internet digital disruption, and it's called ERP. It's enterprise resource planning. Everyone knows it. It's all over the place. It's been here for years, and it's still moving. It's still changing. What is it? It's about digital bookkeeping is a lot more efficient than manual bookkeeping. So if you plug your suppliers, if you plug your factories, if you plug your resources into a system and all these exchanges and planning happens automatically, you will be a more productive company. So we've all gone through this, we've seen Business Object, SAP, Oracle, and then Microsoft came in the game. And currently there are a ton of companies that are trying to make it more nimble to implement and execute and more intelligent to have ERPs. So there are still things happening. If you are on an ERP solution that's more than 5 years old, you want to look at what's going on in the market. And things like, should I own the license? Should I rent it? Should I own the IT infrastructure where my ERP runs? Things like that. You should really have another look at it. And that leads me to the second part of digitally mature area, which is server, networking, storage, and computing. And the question you're trying to answer here is, should I have server and storage and networking, or should I rent some server and networking capacity from somebody else? And that's called cloud computing. Everyone's heard about it. There are huge companies, obviously Google and Microsoft Azure and Amazon Web Services, that are selling cloud computing services. And what it is, initially, it's, should I own the infrastructure or should I rent it? And if I rent it, maybe I will get higher computing power, more backup capability and storage capability, faster networking, and I can get a number of services on top of it. If I put my data on somebody else's IT that's so good, I can also use some of their services to clean my data, make it faster, better compute, more intelligent, and so on and so forth. And there are a number of choice points here around cost of ownership of technology versus cost of renting, data privacy, data transmission, confidentiality. There are a number of choice points that you need to think about. I'm sure if you're a business leader, you've been exposed to cloud and somebody in your company is already considering this, it's still going on, but it's probably at a stage where you have to make some kind of decision, and the standard answer is more to go to cloud than not to, but obviously everyone's still trying to make a choice. Do we have fully cloud, fully in-house, hybrid? But that's an area of digital transformation that's really impactful for the business, because it will have an impact on your cost of operating, on your expandability, and a number of things. And I'm sure everyone's looking at this already, or everyone's heard about it. If you have not looked at it for your business, probably somebody is for you, or somebody will very soon. And the third area that is disrupted by digital and triggers transformation is everything that has to do with the way people shop. It's the fact that we as consumers have changed our behavior and our customer journey so much over the past years, and it will keep on changing in the future years, that businesses have to do about it. They have to adapt. We used to go and buy in store. We used to browse online and buy in store, and now we browse online and buy in store, but also we buy a lot more online. And in the future, that will keep on changing. And the fact that the value chain in the customer journey has changed has triggered the need for businesses to show up in different places, have different content strategy, have different pricing strategy, and all of this has disrupted the business. And today we are going to deep dive into this, because there are a number of changes coming up that will further disrupt that disruption. And they will be very impactful for the business. So let's talk about this. Now, what's happening in the world of commerce? What is changing? What am I talking about disrupting the disruption? Well, disruption of commerce is not new, right? Over the last 20 years, we went from buying from stores to buy online, and buy from direct stores, and then buy from Amazon. I mean, you name it, everything's changed basically, and we all know this. Now, there are a number of things happening that are further changing this that will have major impact on businesses. So the number one is the COVID pandemic. And what pandemic has done to online is that adoption of e-commerce has gone as fast in 1 year that it has over the last 6-7 years. So the share of e-commerce has grown incredibly, and a lot of businesses which had reactive e-commerce strategies to the world, they prefer to sell offline, but they have to do online to please the customers. They still are struggling to cope with the fact that it's now massive, and there are issues around the average unit price, the cost of logistics and things like this that are changing, and that pressure will keep building, and actually the pandemic has accelerated that pressure. The other thing that is changing drastically is everything around privacy, and I'm not going to go into a ton of details here, but we've seen GDPR in Europe, we've seen the California privacy law, China just passed a bill on privacy, and this is changing the entire economy of digital advertising and digital selling. It's changed how you can reach customers and attract their attention to serve them your advertising, and how you can make sure that you've converted it so you can attribute value to the change. Once again, not too many details, but the cost of acquiring customers will probably go up through online advertising, and the cost of converting as well. And there are entire places of the marketing technology that are going to be reshuffled by this. Now, if you have a business based around retargeting, so re-engagement of customer that is powered by cookies, you'll probably need to completely reinvent your business model right now. So there will be tons of changes, but what you have to know as a business is that the cost of acquiring and converting customers through online will be different, and you will have to develop different strategies to make sure you are a winner in these changes. And the last thing that is going to change, the third point on commerce transformation, is the fact that we will start buying through more digital places. And I mentioned we went from browsing the stores to browsing online, and then buying in store to buying in e-commerce. Well, in the near future, in the next 2 years, we are going to buy a lot more from digital social networks. I mean, social commerce was almost zero 2 years ago, 3% of US e-commerce last year, and it will be double digit in the next 5 years. It's a huge thing in China. It's going to keep on increasing. The reason why it increases is basically there are a number of changes and innovation on social networks that enable you to be having more of a frictionless experience. And if that experience is frictionless, we as consumer will buy more from it. And it's going to happen. After this, people are going to start buying also a lot more through messaging applications. Maybe WhatsApp can ping you, as a business, I can ping you my catalog offering, my pricing, and transact through WhatsApp. And it's incredibly convenient. It's a fast conversation, so consumers will love it, and they will use it more. So these three things are changing the disruption that we already knew on commerce. And these three things are the acceleration through the COVID pandemic, the privacy changes that have coming to the market, and social network, social commerce, and messaging commerce that are coming to maturity right now. And all of these you should think about, and you should have a strategy for it. And I know it sounds a bit daunting and a bit scary that so many things are moving at the same time, but don't worry. Now we're going to go through the solution, and it's not that complicated. It's the way you think about it and your structure your thinking will help a lot around thriving in this disrupted commerce world. So, what is the solution? First, let me start again with this digital maturity framework, this idea that everyone has got to go through this journey, at some point to deliver some real-time multi-moment experiences to their customers. Well, while I am not saying that this is not the ultimate state that you might want to aspire to, what I'm definitely saying that if this is where you want to go, you should really be prepared for what it means. And what it means is that everything in your company, your ERP, your website database, your customer database, your transactional database, your suppliers, your procurement, you name it, everything talks to each other at the same time. And then it gets analyzed on a real-time basis, and then it decides on business outputs. So what I'm saying is that it's really, really hard to do. It's a lot of things to patch together. And it's even a lot harder just because it's not standalone. It sits on the tech stack of Google, the tech stack of Facebook, the tech stack of your ERP, and all your suppliers you have to plug into. So basically, you're trying to make a very complex technology solution that sits on top of other technology solutions. And by the way, these ones that you're sitting on, they're moving all the time because there's lots of evolution. So it's just really hard to do. And very few companies will actually get there. Actually, it's not the right thing for most companies to do this, to build that internal complex technology that is like a standalone thing. And the reason why, number one, it's incredibly expensive and it takes a lot of time. You're trying to build your own technology world on top of others companies' world, and you have to maintain it. So by the way, it's going to take a lot of time. You will need great talent that's hard to find. You will have to put a lot of cash in, and it will pay off a lot, but it will pay in the long run. Initially, you'll have to put a lot of cash and people at the problem, and you will get low returns. Now, once you're there, it's also very costly to maintain. But if you can make it there and maintain it, you own your destiny in digital, and very few companies do this in the world right now. So it's a great place to be, but be very aware of what it takes to get there, and that for most companies, it doesn't make any sense to try to get there because it's mission impossible. Now, what can you do? I mean, there are some very few simple things that you can do that will help you getting to being more nimble, more efficient digitally without having to do all this investment. You might have an ERP, you might have a website, you might have a customer support database. All of this doesn't talk to each other. You know, you have a catalog of products in your database with description and pictures. And using all of this properly will get you a very, very long way. There are two things that you need to think about. One, where are my customers spending their time? Where do they spend their attention? Where do they hang out online? And two, where do they buy? So let's start with one. Where my customers hang out. We all spend so much more time online. And basically, you know, let's talk about this a little bit quickly. We spend so much time online. It's the third thing we'll do in our lives after sleeping and eating is spend time online. That's a fact. There are stats about that. So the question you need to answer is, I know who my target segments are. I know what type of people I'm targeting. Now the question is, where are these people spending their attention? Because many businesses right now are spreading the limited resources they have to acquire customers in trying to be in many places with low efficiency. Now, reset and ask yourself the question, where are they spending time online? Let me give you a couple of examples of this. If you're trying to build a brand with customers below 20, you want to be on TikTok because that's a platform where they are massively engaged at scale. You need to have a strategy for that. If you're selling technical stuff for gaming, you want to be on Twitch, or you want to be on YouTube specials, channels, and blogs. That's probably where they're spending their time. If you have multiple type of segments and multiple type of product offerings, you probably want to be on the Facebook stack. You know, it has 1.8 billion people engaged every day, and you can have segmentation strategies that are pretty laser focused and efficient. So you want to think about this. Where are your customers? And then find the top two places where they are spending time. Let's say you are selling something that, you know, you find out that if you're on Instagram and YouTube, that's where most of your current customers and current targets spend their time. So that's where you need to be. Once you know this, try to get good at this. Try to understand two things. What's the tone of voice I should use? So how should I talk to my customers on this platform so that they listen and I am in the tone of voice of this place? And two, what type of messaging should I serve to them? But you'll get tons of help for that from this platform. So get good at Instagram, get good at YouTube. Feed them with what you have in your company. You have digital assets, marketing assets, you have a product catalog, you know, list of product with a description and the prices, their pictures, and some videos about it. Feed it to them. And this might be very manual, like you might actually put all your product catalog description into an Excel file and then have pictures of products associated to it and then a bunch of videos or JPEG that you want to fit it. And then you put it on the platform. And then what's going to happen, these platforms, they have all this digital technology, this fancy stuff that's hard to get. That's their life. That's what they do. So you'll give them basically food for them to optimize your business. They will go and make your transaction costs lower because they will optimize over time. They will serve your catalog, product pictures, your marketing videos to customers, test them, and see what works best with what customers. They will go and find new customers for you. Think about the 1.8 billion people on Facebook every day. They know a lot more customers than you do. They won't tell you who they are, but if you feed them with the right content, they'll go and find them for you. So they'll acquire customers for you. If you have good lookalike strategies on Facebook, similar customers to mine, or broad audiences, reach type of things, you will acquire a lot of customers through there. So you have to think of these platforms as your digital transformation. You're standing on the shoulder of giants. You are actually giving them food so that they can go and harvest customers for you. They transact more efficiently and they bring more customers to you. Also, once you've done this and your customers are coming to you, find out where they buy, and maybe they hang out on YouTube and Instagram, but they buy primarily from physical retail and then Amazon. Get good at these two things. Many companies are very good retail people because they've been in the game for a long time and they know everything about it. Now get good at Amazon. And it's as simple as, understand what Amazon Marketing Services, Amazon Marketing Group is, understand, the importance of content, what's A+ content. And it's simple things like literally loading JPEG pictures and a few videos about your product on the Amazon content stack that will get you a lot more engagement, rank you higher on Amazon and get you more conversions there. So you have to know maybe 4 things. You have to know what's the tone of voice on YouTube and Instagram, and then you have to know how to kind of optimize your brand on Amazon and do retail. That's the 4 things you have to know. Forget about data science and real-time analytics and all that stuff. You don't have to worry about this. You're standing on the shoulder of giants. You're using platforms that are incredibly good at this. You are giving them the right material so they can go hunt and convert customers for you. Now, the big difference is this used to be more of the marketing people type of things, like the social network and the acquisition. The big change that you have to implement is that everyone in your company needs to understand this. How you have a product strategy, how you have a go-to-market strategy, how you have a marketing strategy, a pricing strategy is incredibly impacted by this. So the one thing you can do is make sure everyone understands these 4 things, as opposed to having to try to understand 100 things to a scattered set of people and nobody has common ground. That's the most efficient thing you can do. Get good at 4 things. Understand where your customers hang out, where they transact. Get the basics of knowing how it works, and then get on there and get everyone in your company to understand this. If you get there, you'll already be in a great place and you will acquire customers faster and transact at a lower cost than anybody else in your industry, probably. Also, not everyone has to understand everything. You only have to get to the functional part of this platform. Let me tell you a story. I used to have a marketing team that was buying keywords on Google every day, all day, finding which keywords work for our products and understand how much to bid per keyword. The day we flipped to Google proposing us an automatic bidding structure, so we wouldn't choose the word, they would choose it for us based on the algorithm relevance, we actually had more return with fewer people. So that's what I call standing on the shoulder of giants. You don't have to understand all of the complexities. You have to know what's my core product, what my core customer, have a catalog of product and services and be able to feed it to them together with your marketing assets, photos and videos. And that will give you 100 more times return in a much faster scale of time than if you go and build that internal real-time analytics, multi-moment delivered through yourself. So I hope this helps. Of course, at some point, once you're done there and you're very comfortable with this, then you might turn around and look at the next 5 years, what you want to do about your data, what you want to do about the cloud, how many of your systems should be connected, but you have more time for this because the giants will be working for you if you know how to use them. And that's where you need to start. That's what will bring you great return and keep you in business and thriving and a competitive edge today. And then you can worry about tomorrow and you have time for that. Thank you very much for listening if you made it so far in the video, and I'll see you soon for other interesting topics around commerce transformation.